Chapter 12. Lord Lu. Wang Chong bowed, paying no attention to Bao Xian at the side. Third Gongzi. Lu Ting looked at Wang Chong with a smile. He had arrived earlier than Wang Chong, so he was aware of what had happened in the vast crane pavilion. Even though Wang Chong's father, Wang Yan, was enraged and felt that Wang Chong had caused a huge disaster, Lu Ting didn't think much of it. Yao Guangyi was King Qi's man while Wang Yan was the King of Song's man. The two of them weren't on good terms, and it was normal for them to have conflicts in private. On the other hand, if the King of Song were to know that a 15-year-old lad from the Wang clan had taught Yao Feng of the Yao clan a lesson, not only would he not blame him, he would even be delighted to persuade Wang Yan to punish his son and daughter. Third Gongzi, there is no need to worry. Didn't you just injure the Yao clan Gongzi? When I return, I will tell the King of Song that the both of you will be fine. Lu Ting chuckled. Really? The eyes of the Wang clan's little sister lit up. She immediately believed his words, causing Lu Ting to burst into laughter. Wang Chong felt warmth in his heart. Even though this Lord Lu had testified against his father in his previous life, he was only made use of in this matter. Thus, he spoke of what he saw, so he didn't have a bad heart. Lord Lu is indeed a gentleman, I am impressed. However, while one shouldn't have the heart to harm others, one must be wary of others. Lord Lu needs to be wary of being made use of by vile people. On the surface, some people appear to be loyal, upright, and sanctimonious, but in private, they betray us, surrendering to the Prince of Qi and bending their backs for the sake of 5 buckets of rice. Darren must be on guard against them. Wang Chong said. Even though he was speaking to Lu Ting, his gaze was fixed on Bao Xian, causing the latter's expression to change. Lad, what do you mean by that? Lu Ting wasn't a fool. His expression changed and he immediately followed Wang Chong's gaze to look at Bao Xian. Unlike his father, Lu Ting was much smarter. His father didn't know that a large number of the King of Song's subordinates had defected to the King of Qi, but Lu Ting did. Hearing Wang Chong's words, Lu Ting suddenly thought of Bao Xian making an exception to invite him to the vast crane pavilion, as well as the sudden appearance of the old butler. He suddenly sensed something and his gaze toward Bao Xian changed. The reason why Lu Ting was used was because he was caught off guard. In the eyes of a gentleman, everyone is a gentleman. From the bottom of his heart, Lu Ting never thought that Bao Xian would betray him. However, this trip to the vast crane pavilion was just a simple meal. For so many things to happen, Lu Ting couldn't help but think too deeply into it. Stinking brat, what nonsense are you talking about? Brother Lu, don't listen to his nonsense. Bao Xian was caught unprepared by Wang Chong. At first, he was still very calm, but when he saw Lu Ting's eyes gradually becoming stern, he immediately became flustered. If you don't do anything shameful, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking at your door in the middle of the night. This was definitely not Bao Xian. In the first place, he was guilty of this matter, and Lu Ting was an upright person with a sharp gaze that could pierce through one's heart. After a child like Wang Chong exposed his secret and Lu Ting's insight, Bao Xian was caught off guard and his mind was in a mess. Bao Xian, I didn't expect you to be such a person. Lu Ting's gaze was cold. Initially, he was still skeptical, but at this moment he was certain of it. Wang Chong was just a child, so he couldn't treat his words seriously. However, Bao Xian's reaction had already revealed the problem. He wasn't a 3-year-old child, he couldn't differentiate between truth and lies. Lord Bao, let me give you a piece of advice. The one who laughs last laughs best. It's still too early to say who will win between the King of Song and King Qi. Be careful that you don't bet on the wrong person. Wang Chong stepped forward and said impolitely. It was indeed comfortable to speak with intelligent people. Initially, he thought that he would have to waste a lot of effort, but to think that Lu Ting was more formidable than he had imagined. He was only giving him a reminder. He didn't expect that Lu Ting would immediately find out the truth. Brother Lu, don't listen to his nonsense. What's wrong with King Qi? Bao Xian was drenched in cold sweat. The more he spoke, the more confused he became. Finally, he couldn't continue and squeezed into the crowd, leaving in a hurry. Lu Ting didn't mind and turned back to look at Wang Chong. The one who laughs last laughs best. Third young master is indeed the heir of the ninth young master. Your words are unique and unique. Lu Ting said with admiration. This 15-year-old boy gave him a very special feeling, and he couldn't be treated lightly. Wang Chong chuckled. As the saying went, the one who laughs last is the best. In his previous world, it was an extremely common saying. However, in this world, Lu Ting had never heard of it before, and he found it novel. Lord, you flatter me, Wang Chong said calmly. His expression was neither servile nor overbearing, and in Lu Ting's eyes, it was even more bizarre. Lord Lu, I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Wang Chong bowed and nodded. This was the first time they met, so Wang Chong didn't want to say too much. As long as he left a good impression on Lord Lu Ting and let him know that he wasn't a true profligate son, it would be fine. With the memories of his previous life, Wang Chong couldn't be clearer. This inconspicuous Lord Lu before him played a very important role by the King of Song's side. Everything he saw, heard, and experienced, he would mention to the King of Song. In his previous life, there had once been an incident in which a concubine of a minister celebrated her birthday. Even the minister himself had forgotten about this matter, but on the day of her birthday, the concubine was surprised to receive a gift from King Song. This was the only gift she received on her birthday. After the incident happened, everyone was puzzled no matter how they thought about it. The King of Song hadn't even met his concubine, so how could he know his birthday? It wasn't until later that the minister slapped his head and inadvertently recalled that he had mentioned it to Lu Ting once before. After this incident, almost everyone knew that this Lord Lu Ting had an extraordinary status by the King of Song's side. As long as he knew something, he would tell King Song most of the time. This incident left a deep impression on Wang Chong, so he remembered it. If he left a good impression on the King of Song, it would be very convenient for him to do things in the future. This was also the reason why Wang Chong took the initiative to greet Lord Lu and leave a good impression. Little sister, let's go. Wang Chong beckoned to his little sister, boarded the carriage, and slowly drove toward the Wang residence. Interesting, what an interesting scion. Lu Ting shook his head and a strange glint flashed across his eyes. Only after the pair of siblings left did he turn around. After pondering for a moment, he called for a carriage. Instead of entering the vast crane pavilion, he headed straight for the King of Song residence. At the same time, in the Yao clan residence. Amidst the groaning, Yao Feng slowly woke up. He felt an excruciating pain in every single bone in his body. The pair of siblings were extremely ruthless and Yao Feng was sent home. You're awake. An impassive voice sounded. Yao Feng was taken aback. Turning around, he realized that there was a tall figure in the room. The figure's back was facing him, and he was standing by the window. Father! Yao Feng struggled to get up from the bed and walked over. What happened today about that Wang Chong? Tell me everything in detail, no matter how big or small. Yao Guangyi's voice was cold and it was impossible to discern his emotions. Wang Chong! Yao Feng was taken aback. He really didn't expect that the first thing his father did after he woke up would be to ask about Wang Chong. With his father's status, there was no need for him to care about such a person, right? However, Yao Feng knew his father's temper well. Upon hearing the question, he didn't dare to refute. Instead, he hurriedly recounted everything that had happened. Yao Guangyi's face was clouded and he did not speak for a long time. So you're saying that the reason this pair of siblings were able to barge in is all because of Ma Zhou? Yao Guangyi said. Yes. Just as Yao Feng finished his words, a slap landed heavily on Yao Feng's face. Half of Yao Feng's face immediately swelled up. Father! Yao Feng clutched the left side of his face as he stared at his father before him in astonishment. This was the first time in his life that his father had hit him like this. Bastard! Do you know how much you've ruined my plans? You know how much effort I've put into this matter today. Yao Guangyi's expression was incomparably ferocious. In the vast crane pavilion, it wasn't appropriate for him to act up before so many people. But now that there was no one, Yao Guangyi finally erupted. Putong! Yao Feng's face changed and with a putong sound he knelt onto the floor. This was the first time in his life that he had seen his father fly into such a rage. However, Yao Guangyi's anger was still unappeased. Ever since he returned, he had felt that something was amiss with the matter regarding Wang Chong and Wang Xiaoyao. Yet, Yao Guangyi didn't expect that his father would put in so much effort and plan everything out of the ordinary. Yet, he didn't expect that all of his plans would be wasted on a hoodlum in the capital. Ma Zhou? What is that? Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't even be considered as an ant in the eyes of people like them. Yet, the King of Song and King Qi, the two relatives of the royal family, the influential figures of the royal court, were actually stirred up by such an insignificant hoodlum. If news of this were to spread, it would be a complete joke. Our Yao clan could have been able to advance further, but because of you, because of that unknown Ma Zhou, everything has been ruined. Do you know how great of a loss this matter is to our Yao clan? Do you know how important this matter is to King Qi? I have promised him time and time again that there wouldn't be any slip-ups. Initially, Yao Feng thought that this slap was extremely innocent. But as he listened on, he suddenly thought of something and his face turned paler and paler. In just a few breaths, his body trembled and cold sweat poured down like rain. Father, I was wrong. I didn't know about this matter at all. Yao Feng was terrified. He definitely knew about King Qi's plan to deal with the King of Song. To deal with the King of Song, the most important thing was to drive a wedge between the King of Song and the Wang clan. And to drive a wedge between the King of Song and the Wang clan, the crux was to drive a wedge between Wang Yan and the King of Song. This was the easiest way for the Wang clan to do it. Yao Feng thought that such an important matter would take a long time. He didn't expect that it would be carried out so quickly. To think that he would unintentionally ruin such an important matter for his father during the banquet in the vast crane pavilion. You can't be blamed for this matter. Looking at Yao Feng's fearful expression, Yao Guangyi's heart softened. After all, he only had this one son. Furthermore, he was also at fault for this matter. In order to deal with Wang Yan, he intentionally sealed off the news, not even telling his own son about it. There were many guests of King Qi in the vast crane pavilion, and most of them probably didn't know what had happened. There was bound to be a loss in every gain. If he had told Yao Feng about it beforehand, such a thing wouldn't have happened. Even though Yao Guangyi tried to console him, Yao Feng still felt deeply uneasy. He knew very well how serious this matter was. If King Qi were to blame him, it wasn't something that his father could bear alone. Father, doesn't that mean that this matter has failed? Yao Feng thought of King Qi. His father had promised King Qi time and time again that nothing would go wrong. Now that something like this had happened, King Qi didn't know how to react. Unlike the King of Song, Yao Feng knew that King Qi wouldn't tolerate the incompetence of his subordinates. Failed. Hearing Yao Feng's words, Yao Guangyi sneered coldly. Then he suddenly quietened down. How can the plan that I, Yao Guangyi, have come up with fail so easily? Since I've fallen out with Wang Yan in the vast crane pavilion, I'll just have to change my plan to the ruse of self-injury. Chapter 13. Disappointing thing. Seeing Yao Feng's expression, Yao Guangyi couldn't help but curse. This child might be talented, but in terms of scheming, he was still far from the Yao clan. Putting aside the old man above him, he probably didn't even have a tenth of what he had. This was also the reason why Yao Guangyi didn't hand over the authority of the clan to him. Haven't you heard of the saying, trying to cover up only makes things worse? Kneeling on the floor, Yao Feng seemed to have thought of something. His body trembled and a look of realization appeared on his face. Only then did Yao Guangyi nod his head in satisfaction. Even though many people saw us going against each other on Wang Yan's side, we can still say that we did it on purpose. But we can also say that we did it on purpose. As for the King of Song, we have roped in so many of his subordinates and he is already on high alert. As long as we continue to carry out the original plan, incite and expand the suspicion in his heart, when the time comes, we will give him a fatal blow at the border. At that time, he will still be convinced. Betrayal is one thing, it is human nature to change one's direction. But for someone like the King of Song, if he were to realize that he has been fooled and lied to on purpose, do you know what would happen? Yao Guangyi's voice was sinister, and by the end, even Yao Feng felt a chill down his spine. Attacking the city is the worst, attacking the heart is the best. In terms of scheming and human nature, he was still a far cry from his father. In this aspect, Yao Feng could only kneel on the floor and listen. Wang Yan has an upright and inflexible personality. This time, when the King of Song summons him, as long as he doesn't respond well or says anything wrong, this matter will be settled without me making a move personally. Yao Guangyi's gaze was deep, as though he could see through the Yao residence and into the distance. But very quickly, he regained his senses and helped Yao Feng up from the floor. Get up, you don't have to worry about this matter. As your father, I have an even more important task for you to do. What? Yao Feng was taken aback. What matter could be more important than the plan between the King of Song, King Qi, and his father? That pair of siblings from the Wang clan always makes me feel uneasy. If today's incident was a coincidence, then so be it. It wasn't a big deal. What I'm afraid of is that all of this is not a coincidence. Yao Guangyi frowned deeply, as though he had been struggling for a long time. Yao Feng cried out involuntarily. He didn't expect that the more important matter his father was referring to was this. The two siblings are only in their teens. Do you think they can see through your plan? Yao Feng couldn't believe his eyes. He didn't expect that with his father's wisdom and means, he would actually worry about two kids who weren't even 15 yet. They were in their teens, but weren't they knocked unconscious in the vast crane pavilion as well? Yao Guangyi said with a dark expression. But this is completely different. Yao Feng had to admit that the little girl from the Wang clan was indeed terrifyingly strong. However, Yao Feng didn't believe that these kids were capable enough to compete with his father, Yao Guangyi, in terms of intelligence, and see through a situation that even their father, Wang Yan, couldn't see through. There's no difference. Just do as I say. Yao Guangyi said coldly. All right. Yao Feng wanted to reject the idea, but after pondering for a moment, he suddenly agreed to it. It was one thing for the eldest and second brother of the Wang clan to deal with them. He was weaker than them, so it was one thing for him to suffer a loss. But now, even the third and fourth brother were riding on his shoulders. He had embarrassed himself in front of so many people in the vast crane pavilion. He wouldn't let this matter rest just like that. Even without his father's orders, he would still find a way to deal with the two siblings. I hope that I'm thinking too much into this matter. Hearing Yao Feng's change of heart, Yao Guangyi's complexion turned for the better. Even though the matter regarding the vast crane pavilion had failed, there was still the border for him to make a big fuss about. Even if the two siblings were intelligent, they were the ones who intentionally sabotaged the matter regarding the vast crane pavilion. Yao Guangyi didn't believe that they would obstruct him at the border soon. But it was better to be safe than sorry. No matter what, after the matter regarding the vast crane pavilion, he had to be careful. Remember this. No matter what, keep a close eye on them. If there's any news, inform me immediately. Yes. Yao Feng nodded his head. In the massive carriage heading to the King of Song residence, Wang Yan sat upright and unmoving like a mountain. However, his mind was in a mess. All he could think about were the two matters that Wang Chong had mentioned in the vast crane pavilion. Initially, Wang Yan didn't believe a single one of Wang Chong's words. But the truth was placed before him and he had no choice but to believe it. He had just met the King of Song not too long ago and the King of Song had really sent an envoy over. Furthermore, it happened to be at the moment when he walked out of the vast crane pavilion. Everything was as Wang Chong had predicted. Wang Yan couldn't understand how Wang Chong knew of it. But this wasn't the crux of the matter. What Wang Yan was concerned about was another matter. I wonder if the King of Song is really looking for me regarding Yao Guangyi? Wang Yan thought to himself. All his life, he was upright and upright. No matter what he did, he had a clear conscience, and there was nothing he couldn't tell others. The meeting with Yao Guangyi was just an ordinary banquet. During the banquet, they did not talk about anything important. Given the relationship between the King of Song residence and the Wang clan, Wang Yan didn't think that the King of Song would really look for him over such a matter. No matter what, we will know soon enough whether it's true or not. Wang Yan took in a deep breath, parted the curtains of the carriage and walked down. Not too far away, there was a massive and majestic palace. The words "The King of Song Residence" were written in gold on the signboard at the entrance. Wang Yan followed behind the meticulous old butler, passing through gardens and corridors before entering the main hall of the King of Song Residence. The main hall of the King of Song Residence was empty. When Wang Yan walked in, he saw a massive figure sitting at the top of the silent main hall. He exuded an aura of nobility and elegance. This was the influential figure of the Tang dynasty, the King of Song. Subject Wang Yan pays his respects to His Highness, the King of Song. Wang Yan walked forward and knelt down on one knee. His loud voice reverberated throughout the main hall. The main hall was empty. Other than the King of Song, there was no one else. The King of Song wrapped himself in the darkness above the main hall and didn't move at all. No one knew how long he had been here. For a long time, Wang Yan didn't hear any response from the King of Song. Lifting his head, he subconsciously took a glance. For some reason, Wang Yan felt that the King of Song today was different from usual. "Oh, Wang Yan, you're here." After an unknown period of time, the King of Song jolted awake, as though he had just noticed Wang Yan's presence. Wang Yan frowned unnoticeably. The King of Song seemed to be troubled today. "Yes, Your Highness, you were looking for me?" Wang Yan asked. The main hall fell into a long silence. Since the King of Song didn't speak, Wang Yan waited silently. Honestly speaking, he still couldn't understand what kind of important matter it was for the old butler to summon him from the King of Song. Furthermore, it was so urgent. "I heard that Yao Guangyi invited you to a meal at the vast crane pavilion?" The King of Song hesitated for a long time before speaking. These words seemed to have taken a lot of his strength, and his voice was unusually heavy. Boom! Hearing the words of the King of Song, Wang Yan's heart couldn't help but ripple. Yao Guangyi. When Wang Chong said it, Wang Yan didn't believe him. However, he didn't expect that the reason why the King of Song sent the old butler to look for him was really because of Yao Guangyi. It was just an ordinary meal between him and Yao Guangyi. There wasn't anything between them. Furthermore, there was the friendship between the Wang clan and the Yao residents. Wang Yan didn't believe that the King of Song would suspect him over such a matter. However, the truth was right before him. Wang Chong was right. The King of Song was really suspicious of him. Wang Yan's heart was incomparably heavy. "Yes." Wang Yan replied without any hesitation. He had a clear conscience regarding this matter, and there was nothing for him to hide. "Then, what did Yao Guangyi talk to you about?" The King of Song hesitated for a moment before continuing to ask. There seemed to be a peculiar tone in his voice. Hearing the words of the King of Song, the ripples in Wang Yan's heart intensified. The second matter. This was the second matter that Wang Chong was right about. Wang Yan's heart was filled with complex emotions. In his heart, his third son, Wang Chong, had always been a stubborn and unfilial son. The words of the vast crane pavilion were complete nonsense to Wang Yan. But now, Wang Yan didn't dare to think so anymore. "Yao Guangyi wanted to recruit me, but I rejected him," Wang Yan said. If it was before today, Wang Yan wouldn't have said such words. However, after realizing that the King of Song was already suspicious of him because of Yao Guangyi, Wang Yan didn't dare to think so anymore. "Who?" A long sigh of relief could be heard in the hall. The originally tense atmosphere suddenly relaxed a lot after Wang Yan's words. It was like a bow that had been pulled to its fullest and was suddenly released from the bowstring. "I see." Wang Yan heard the King of Song's voice coming from the top of the hall. His voice wasn't relaxed at all, as though a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. "Actually, I have already informed Your Highness of this matter." Wang Yan's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly spoke. "Oh." In the hall, the King of Song's muscular figure abruptly sat up straight. For the first time, a look of surprise appeared on his face. "You informed me of this matter?" It wasn't a direct report, but a letter. Logically speaking, this letter should have been sent to the King of Song residence yesterday. Did Your Highness not see it? Wang Yan was even more surprised than the King of Song. That day during the meal, Wang Chong mentioned that he hoped that he would inform the King of Song in advance. Even though Wang Yan didn't think that there was a need for it, he still wrote a letter. However, he didn't expect that the king of Song didn't receive it at all. Manager Jing, go out and check on it. The king of Song frowned. For the first time, he felt that something was amiss. The old manager, who had a majestic aura and looked unfathomable, left in a hurry. After a short while, he returned and walked briskly to the side of the king of Song, whispering a few words to him. Even though Wang Yan couldn't hear what they were saying, he could see that the king of Song's expression had clearly softened and looked much better. Wang Yan couldn't help but secretly rejoice that he had finally listened to Wang Chang's words and written a letter to the king of Song. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be able to explain it. Indeed, this matter did happen. It's just that I've been too busy recently and forgot to look at it. That's my oversight. The king of Song smiled faintly and said, Hee, let's not talk about this. It's rare for the general to return to the capital. Thinking that it's been a long time since we got together, I specially asked the old manager to pick you up. How is it? Is everything all right in the barracks? The king of Song changed the topic and asked about the barracks. As he spoke, he stood up from his seat and walked down. It was a middle-aged man with a ruddy complexion and the air of royalty. His face was warm and amiable, as though nothing had happened. Thanks to your highness, everything is fine. Wang Yan was a typical soldier. When he heard the king of Song ask about the border, he naturally told him everything he knew. The atmosphere in the hall instantly became much more intimate. The king of Song residents and the Wang family had been friends for several generations. When they talked about it to the fullest, the two of them couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 14. Wang Yan walked out of the king of Song's residence with the cold wind blowing on his face. However, his heart was not at ease at all. Wang Chang's words reverberated in his mind. Wang Yan couldn't help but admit that he had wronged his third son on the matter of Wang Chong. A leopard never changes its spots. Wang Yan had always thought that this unfilial son of his had reverted back to his old ways, causing trouble everywhere he went. However, if not for Wang Chang's reminder, Wang Yan would not have known that the king of Song was already dissatisfied with his relationship with Yao Guangyi. Wang Yan was a pure soldier, but that did not mean that he was clueless. The greatest taboo for an official was to be taboo for the superior. The friendship between the Song and Wang clans spanned several generations. It would be a great sin if it were to be destroyed just because of a single wrong word that he had said. However, even so, Wang Yan still found it hard to believe Wang Chang's words. How is this possible? Yao Guangyi is framing me? Wang Yan looked up at the sky and sighed. Wang Chong said that Yao Guangyi was framing him, but Wang Yan still did not believe it. At most, he and Yao Guangyi only met once and had a drink. They didn't talk about anything else during the banquet. How could Yao Guangyi frame him? Could it be that drinking once and meeting once was framing? Wasn't this too easy and ridiculous? Wang Yan shook his head, unable to understand. Just as he was deep in thought, the sound of horse hooves could be heard from the street in the distance. Wang Yan's heart skipped a beat. He raised his head and saw a black horse galloping towards him. Is that General Wang Yan? On the horse, a general with a flag on his back shouted from afar. What's the matter? Wang Yan's eyes narrowed and his expression was stern. The Ministry of War has orders for the general to return to the encampment immediately. The general's face was dark. With a flick of his wrist, a red arrow shot out. Without another word, he turned his horse around and galloped away, disappearing into the wind with the clip-clop of his hooves. Wang Yan grabbed the red arrow token in his hand. When he saw the word fire written on the arrow token, his expression immediately changed. Military orders were like a falling mountain. The word fire on the Ministry of War's transfer order meant that it was extremely urgent. In other words, the moment he received the order, he had to rush to the encampment without stopping. The third matter. Wang Yan looked at the arrow token in his hand, and his heart was in turmoil. He had just met the King of Song. He hadn't even crossed the steps of the King of Song's mansion when he received the transfer order from the Ministry of War. The time was exactly as Wang Chong had said. This was simply inconceivable. Wang Yan couldn't understand how Wang Chong knew about it. The suspicions in Wang Yan's heart grew heavier and heavier. Yao Guangyi Wang Chong. There were too many mysteries in this matter. Now, there's only one matter left, Wang Yan thought to himself. He recalled what Wang Chong had said about retreating 50 li. It had been many years since the Hu had invaded his encampment. Wang Yan also couldn't understand why his third son, Wang Chong, would so solemnly request him to retreat 50 li if he encountered an invasion of the Hu. No matter how one looked at it, this matter was baffling. If it was in the past, Wang Yan definitely wouldn't have taken it seriously. But now, Wang Yan had no choice but to carefully consider it. No matter what, when I reach the border, everything will come to light. Keeping the arrow token, Wang Yan walked down the steps of the king of Song's mansion. He didn't return to the Wang family residence, but headed straight for the encampment. Zheng Yuan has betrayed us. Almost at the same time that Wang Yan left in the king of Song's mansion, the king of Song's face darkened, and he said something completely different. There was one thing that he didn't tell Wang Yan. The king of Song's residence actually didn't have Wang Yan's letter. But that letter had indeed been delivered to the king of Song's residence. Yet another defector who defected to King Qi's side. The old butler's complexion didn't look too good. After Wang Yan's letter reached the king of Song's residence, it was taken away by one of the king of Song's aides, Zheng Yuan. In this period of time, too many people had betrayed the king of Song and defected to King Qi's side. Without a doubt, Zheng Yuan was one of them. Bastards! I've treated them well, and yet they treat me like this. The king of Song clenched his fists, his face filled with rage. He wasn't a suspicious person by nature, but right now, King Qi was going around persuading the people around him. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, the people around him all changed sides. Many of the people that he had trusted a lot in the past had defected to King Qi's side. Given the circumstances, the king of Song couldn't help but feel suspicious. It's a pity for Wang Yan. The Wang clan has always been loyal to me. From the looks of it, I've wronged him on this matter. The king of Song said guiltily, Your Highness, there's no need to blame yourself. Yao Guangyi is King Qi's trusted aide. For Wang Yan to have a secret meeting with him in the vast crane pavilion at this moment, anyone would be suspicious. Your Highness can't be blamed for this. However, it's still too early to say whether the Wang clan is innocent or not. Even though the children of the Wang and Yao clan had a conflict in the tavern, couldn't it be an act of self-mutilation? It can't be that Your Highness has forgotten about the matter with Zhou Chang back then? The old butler spoke without any change in his expression. Wang. Hearing those words, the king of Song's complexion immediately changed. The matter with Zhou Chang was something that happened during the reign of the previous emperor. Because of this matter, countless officials in the royal court were demoted. Even the king of Song's father, the king of Song, was implicated and spent 3 months in the imperial prison. The lineage of the king of Song residents was nearly stripped of their nobility due to this matter. As such, the king of Song had a deep impression of this matter. You mean to say, the king of Song's face twitched. His relaxed brows knitted together once more as he fell into deep thought. I didn't say anything. Your Highness is a kind person. If the Wang clan remains loyal to you, that would be a good thing. However, Your Highness has to be wary of it. After all, it's hard to tell what is in a person's heart. If the Wang clan is indeed wronged in this matter, Your Highness is willing to compensate them however you want. However, it isn't wise for us to jump to conclusions now. The old butler said impassively. The king of Song was a kind person, but as the old butler of the king of Song residence, he had served a few princes, and he had seen too many schemes and plots in the royal court. There were no eternal friends, only eternal interests. As the old butler of the king of Song residence, he was only loyal to the interests of the king of Song. Isn't it easy to find out the truth? The king of Song was silent for a moment before suddenly smiling. Your Highness, are you talking about Academic Lu? The old butler seemed to have guessed it. Didn't Academic Lu go to the vast crane pavilion with Bao Xian? You can ask him about this matter. He can't be any clearer. The king of Song nodded his head solemnly, a respectful expression on his face. He had already received news that Lu Ting was waiting outside. Paying respects to your highness the King of Song. A moment later, a figure walked in. Dressed in a white scholar's robe, Lu Ting bowed deeply to the King of Song. Academic Lu, I heard that you went to the vast crane pavilion as well? The King of Song asked. There was one person in the royal court that he didn't doubt, and that was Lu Ting. This wasn't just because Lu Ting was an upright person who wouldn't betray him. It was also because Lu Ting had once saved his life. Back then, he wasn't the King of Song, and he didn't have his current standing. Due to a certain matter, he was suspected of plotting a rebellion, and he was implicated in the rebellion. Back then, Duke Jiao was dispatched to the borders to deal with the Turkic Khaganate. At that moment, the war was in full swing, and it was beyond his reach. Everyone in the royal court was in danger, and no one spoke up for him. At this moment, only the newly promoted academic Lu Ting risked offending the new emperor and being labeled as a rebel to rebuke the new emperor. In fact, he even chased after the new emperor all the way to the back palace, knocking his forehead against a pillar and nearly dying. It was because of Lu Ting's rebuke that the new emperor paid attention to the matter and reopened the trial. Thus, the King of Song was cleared of suspicion and his life was saved. As this matter happened in the back palace, not many people knew about it. Lu Ting had never publicized it, and he didn't mention it before the King of Song either. The King of Song only learned of this matter from the new emperor. From then on, the King of Song treated Lu Ting with utmost respect. He was also willing to listen to his opinions. Bao Xian invited me there. Not only did he go there, but he also encountered something interesting there. Even if your highness didn't ask about it, I would have told you about it. Lu Ting said with a smile. Oh, tell me about it. A glint flashed across the eyes of the King of Song, and his interest was piqued. He was well aware of Lu Ting's personality. An interesting matter that came from the mouth of this renowned scholar was definitely extraordinary. Your Highness should know about the conflict between the Wang clan siblings and the Yao clan's Gongzi, Duke Yao, in the vast crane pavilion, right? Lu Ting smiled. I know about it, but I'm not too sure about it. Could the matter that Scholar Lu spoke of be related to them? The King of Song asked curiously. His original intention was to ask Lu Ting about the matter between Yao Guangyi and Wang Yan. However, after hearing Lu Ting talk about the conflict between the children of the two families, he forgot about this matter. Lu Ting didn't hide anything. He spoke of the matter that he had heard about the siblings outside the vast crane pavilion. Especially the conversation between Wang Chong and Bao Xian, he spoke of it in great detail. As for the part where the King of Song was concerned about Wang Yan, Lu Ting brushed it aside. Initially, the King of Song only listened to it with interest, treating it as an anecdote. But eventually, he was completely captivated. That means that Bao Xian has already betrayed King Qi. The King of Song's complexion darkened. His original intention was to ask about Wang Yan, but he didn't expect to stumble upon a traitor, Bao Xian. To the King of Song, this was a huge blow. If your highness is vexed over Bao Xian's matter, there's no need for you to be vexed over it. Bao Xian isn't the first to betray your highness, and he definitely won't be the last. There's no need for your highness to be vexed over such matters. Lu Ting smiled faintly. He wasn't as vexed as the King of Song. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Those who want to leave won't be able to stay. Those who stay won't be able to leave. If those who have sided with King Qi were to remain here, they would only be a scourge. It would be better for them to leave. Just like what the Wang clan's third young master, Wang Chong, said, the one who laughs in the end is the one who laughs best. The competition isn't over yet, so why should the King of Song be discouraged? This is also what I wanted to say to your highness, the King of Song. Your highness has so many subordinates by your side, but in my opinion, in terms of insight and knowledge, they are inferior to that 15-year-old Wang Chong. Hearing Lu Ting's words, the King of Song couldn't help but smile. Even the tense old butler's expression eased up a little. He had a favorable impression of the young man whom he hadn't interacted with much before. The one who laughs in the end is the one who laughs best. Well said. Academic Lu is right. Not only are Bao Xian and the others inferior to that Wang clan's third son, even I am far inferior. Wang Yan has a good son. The king of Song smiled. He suddenly had a favorable impression of this 15-year-old young man whom he had never met before, but whose words were full of witty words. In his current situation, where he was almost deserted by everyone, there was nothing more gratifying than hearing such words of support from a seemingly inexperienced child. At the side, seeing the smile on the King of Song's face, Lu Ting heaved a sigh of relief. He had served the King of Song for many years and knew how difficult the latter's situation was. In his heart, he really hoped that the latter could get past this hurdle. Hee, speaking of that Wang clan's third son, Lord Lu seems to favor him quite a bit. The King of Song looked at Lu Ting and suddenly said with a smile. That's right. Lu Ting didn't avoid the topic. In front of the King of Song, he frankly admitted that Wang Chong is indeed not simple to have such insight and knowledge at such a young age. In time, his future will be limitless, and he might even become an important figure in the imperial court. The King of Song and the Wang clan have always been on good terms. With the Wang clan's Qilin son, the King of Song will definitely have a great help in the future. Isn't this something to be congratulated for? Lord Lu's evaluation of the Wang clan siblings is actually so high. The King of Song's eyebrows shot up. He was truly taken aback. Your Highness, if that Wang Chong was only able to see through Bao Xian's disguise, it would only mean that he is slightly intelligent. Even though such a person is rare, there are plenty of them in the capital. Furthermore, even without this matter, Your Highness should have already harbored suspicions of Bao Xian, right? Lu Ting said. Could there be another reason? The King of Song frowned in incomprehension. Even though it seems like the Wang clan siblings have disrupted the meeting between Yao Guangyi and Wang Yan because of Ma Zhou's matter. But somehow, I feel that this matter isn't as simple as it seems. Lu Ting hesitated for a long moment before speaking. What? The King of Song was astonished. Even the old butler, whose aura was as deep as the abyss, raised his pale eyebrows and revealed a surprised expression. Even though Lu Ting didn't say it clearly, he knew that if the siblings intentionally went to the vast crane pavilion to wreak havoc, then everything would be different. If that was true, then Lu Ting's evaluation of the siblings wasn't high at all. Not only that, it was low. Academic Lu, why do you feel that way? Chapter 15. I can't explain it clearly. It's just a feeling. When I returned, I looked into the Wang clan's brother and sister. I heard that their reputation in the capital isn't too good, and they can be considered as one of the profligate scions in the capital. They are lawless and do all sorts of shady things. It's said that not too long ago, they even abducted women. If that's the case, it's one thing. However, that isn't the case from my interactions with them. Also, Your Highness is aware of Wang Gingji's personality. He is a pure soldier, and he doesn't know much about politics. Otherwise, he wouldn't have met with Yao Guangyi at this moment. In this matter, I feel that he has been made use of. As for the Wang clan's brother and sister, they seem to understand what Wang Gingji is unable to see through. The incident at the vast crane pavilion seemed to be a provocation to Yao Feng, but I feel that it was directed at their father. Yao Guangyi is known for his scheming. If he were to know that his scheme was seen through by two children, he would probably die in disbelief. Of course, this is only my personal feeling. It's still too early to say the truth. Lu Ting said calmly. The hall was silent. For the first time, a grim expression appeared on the King of Song's face. Even though Lu Ting said that it was his personal guess, the King of Song was too familiar with him. If he didn't have the slightest confidence, he wouldn't have said such words. However, what kind of person was Yao Guangyi? To think that two teenagers would see through this old fox's scheme, how was that possible? The King of Song and the old butler glanced at one another. They could see the deep disbelief in each other's eyes. This was already close to being a monster. Your Highness, it would be fine if that was the case. However, the words that he said, the one who laughs in the end is the one who laughs best. I feel that he was actually saying it to Your Highness. For an outsider to be able to see through matters that even those in the game wouldn't be able to see through, This isn't something that an ordinary intellectual can match up to. Furthermore, he's only 15. Lu Ting sighed. Only then did he reveal the reason why he valued the young man so highly. This child was too young. The King of Song listened and remained silent for a long time. He had to admit that Lu Ting's words had a huge impact on him. The two families of the King of Song were very close, but Duke Jiu's bloodline wasn't the only branch of the Wang family. Moreover, with the identity and status of the King of Song, it was impossible for him to keep paying attention to a few teenagers. But if these children were as capable as Lu Ting said, then the King of Song couldn't take them lightly. Lord Lu's consciousness wants me to meet this Wang clan brat? After a long time, the King of Song raised his head and said. He had originally summoned Lu Ting to ask about Wang Yan, but now, this was no longer important. Without a doubt, Lu Ting was also inclined to believe that Wang Yan was innocent in this matter. There's no need for that. Unexpectedly, Lu Ting waved his hand and denied it. Your Highness, have you forgotten that it will be Duke Jiu's 70th birthday soon? At that time, all the descendants of the Wang clan would go there together. It wouldn't be too late for your Highness to go and meet him at that time. After all of this is just my conjecture, and the truth is still unknown. That's fine. The King of Song smiled and didn't object. It's rare for Lord Lu to think so highly of the third son of the Wang clan. Furthermore, just based on the phrase, the one who laughs last is the best, I have to reward him. Butler Zheng, go pick something from the treasury and send it to Wang Yan's residence. Yes, this old servant understands. The old butler bowed and said respectfully. Wait a moment. The King of Song seemed to have thought of something and hesitated for a moment. It's getting late. Let's send it over tomorrow. Lu Ting saw the sinister look in the King of Song's eyes and sighed. He knew that the King of Song still didn't completely trust Wang Yan. But this time, Lu Ting didn't say anything. As the saying goes, a long journey reveals a horse's stamina, and time reveals a person's life. Whether or not Wang Yan had betrayed the Wang clan, whether or not the Wang clan had colluded with King Qi, and what had happened on the Crane Pavilion, all of this would come to light with the passing of time. As for Bao Xian and Zheng Yuan, I treated them well, but they plotted against me at this time and betrayed me to side with King Qi. Such ungrateful people. If I don't punish them, I won't be able to vent my anger. I can't deal with King Qi, but can I deal with Bao Xian and Zheng Yuan? Aren't Lingnan and Ma Bei lacking a few scholars? Let him spend the rest of his life there. The King of Song's eyes turned sinister as he spoke. The struggle in the imperial court was fraught with danger, treading on thin ice and deciding life and death with a single word. These were not just empty words. Although the King of Song was currently deserted, he wasn't at the point where he was a tiger that had fallen from grace. If a tiger didn't show its might, it would be treated as a sick cat. In the past, he was too benevolent, which was why he was betrayed by so many people. But now, the King of Song didn't want to put up with it anymore. Swish, swish, swish. Picking up his brush, the King of Song hurriedly wrote a memorial to the throne. No one knew that the future of Bao Xian and Zheng Yuan had been decided in just a few strokes. But this time, whether it was the old butler or Lu Ting, no one said anything. Even King Qi wouldn't be able to do anything, let alone fight with the King of Song for the sake of Bao Xian and Zheng Yuan. This was the bloody politics of the imperial court. The carriage rumbled. Wang Chong didn't know what had happened in the King of Song's residence and didn't care about it. Sitting in the carriage on his way back, Wang Chong's mind was in turmoil as he began to think about other things. He had done what he needed to do for his father. Not long after, when Yao Guangyi led his troops and appeared in his father's territory, the truth would be revealed. Next, it was time for him to carry out the second step of his plan. A just cause enjoys abundant support while an unjust cause finds little support. The incident at the vast Crane Pavilion had clearly illustrated this point. His little sister was born with incredible strength, but when she met with Yao Feng and a bunch of thugs from the Yao residence, she couldn't help but be flustered. His previous life's experience had also illustrated this point. If not for his lack of troops, he wouldn't have ended up in such a state. If he wanted to fulfill his wish and change the fate of the Wang clan and the Tang dynasty, He had to be like Yao Feng and gather his own forces. Only with great strength and many followers would he be able to change this perilous empire. But to achieve all of this, he had to possess immense wealth that could rival a country. Money makes the world go round. The more talented a person was, the more rebellious he would be. Without sufficient benefits, who would be willing to serve another? Needless to say, he was only a 15-year-old child. Just that, where could he find such immense wealth? Seated in the carriage, Wang Chong frowned deeply. The Wang clan wasn't a wealthy clan and they didn't have any assets that could allow them to make a fortune. In this aspect, he couldn't rely on his clan at all. Wang Chong could only think of a way himself. There must be a way, there must be a way. Tapping his finger lightly, Wang Chong's mind was in turmoil as he carefully went through the events of his previous life. Without any means to make a fortune, he could only think of ways to earn money. It was fortunate that Wang Chong had the memories of his previous life and he had an advantage in this aspect. I got it. Suddenly, Wang Chong's eyes lit up as he recalled something. Wuxia steel. Right, Wuxia steel. His originally gloomy mood was swept away and Wang Chong's mood suddenly became relaxed. Wood steel is a type of precious patterned steel. When a saber or sword is forged, the patterns on its surface will flow naturally, creating a beautiful sight to behold. At the same time, wood steel is the best material for forging weapons, second to none. In the parallel universe that Wang Chong came from, Wuxia steel had another name, Persian knife, or Damascus scimitar. Weapons forged from this material were ranked first among the 3 most famous swords in the world since ancient times. More importantly, the reserve of Wuxia steel was very limited. Once it was dug out, it would be gone forever. In the future, a real Damascus scimitar could be sold for millions, even tens of millions of US dollars. And it was priceless. In this world, the same was true for Wuxia steel. The reason why Wang Chong remembered this kind of steel was not because of its preciousness, but because of its sharpness. Weapons forged from Wuxia steel were extremely sharp. They could easily tear and break those extremely precious famous swords and sabers. In terms of sharpness, weapons forged from Wuxia steel were the sharpest, second to none. In the parallel universe that Wang Chong came from, scientists had conducted experiments and found that the blades of Wuxia steel weapons had countless nano-level sawteeth of various sizes that were hard to see with the naked eye. These numerous tiny sawteeth together formed the legend of the unparalleled sharpness of Wuxia steel. Cavalry equipped with Wuxia steel weapons could easily cut their opponents into pieces together with their armor. The death was extremely tragic. The tiny sawteeth on the blades of Wuxia steel could easily tear open the opponent's wounds and cause massive bleeding. A large amount of blood would be lost in a short period of time, and the bleeding could not be effectively stopped. Many of the minor injuries had turned into serious injuries because of this. With all these reasons added together, an army equipped with Wuxia steel weapons would possess terrifying destructive power that would cause people to pale at the mere mention of it. And their opponents would usually suffer heavy casualties. However, even though Wuxia steel was so rare, Wang Chong knew that this was the time when it was the least valuable. If there were no accidents, this was the time when the first batch of Wuxia steel would be excavated from the only source in this world, the Hyderabad Mountains. This first batch of Wuxia steel or from Hyderabad was being transported by Sindhi monks to various parts of the world. The Abbasid Caliphate, the Western regions, the Tang dynasty, the Turkic Khaganate, the Silla Empire. Sindh was also known as India or India. However, when it was first introduced to China, it was called Sindh. It was named by Emperor Wu of the Western Han dynasty. It would take another year before the reputation of these rare Wuxia steel would start to show, and another 10 years before it would truly become famous in the world. And it would take another 20 years for the perfect Hyderabad method to forge Wuxia steel to appear. And finally, in less than 30 years, the last piece of in the Hyderabad mountains would be excavated. That was the last piece of Wuxia steel in Hyderabad, and the last piece in the world. This was the current situation of Wuxia steel. This wasn't limitless, it was extremely rare and limited. But at this moment, no one in this world knew about it. Wang Chong carefully recalled the memories in his mind. Calculating the time, these two monks should have already arrived at the Tang dynasty. The people of the Tang dynasty rarely paid attention to people outside of the western regions. At the moment, no one would notice the two strange-looking Sindhi monks, needless to say, the wood steel they were wearing. If he were to find them at this moment, he might be able to make an unexpected fortune. Thinking of this, Wang Chong's heart couldn't help but pound. Even though they were in different time and space, Wang Chong knew that weapons forged from Wuxia steel were also something that countless empires' generals, nobles, celebrities and martial arts experts yearned for. The gorgeous design of Wuxia steel weapons could serve as a foil to the status of the nobles, and to a martial arts expert, a weapon made from Wuxia steel could greatly increase their strength. For these rare Wuxia steel weapons, these people were willing to go bankrupt and pay with everything they had. If he could obtain the Wuxia steel from the two Sindhi monks, the benefits he would receive in the future could be imagined. Thinking of this, Wang Chong couldn't hold back anymore. "Little sister, are you interested in going out with me to find a few people?" Wang Chong suddenly recovered and turned to look at his little sister. "Ah, still going out?" Wang Xiaoyao's eyes widened in shock. She remembered that her father had said that if they were to go out recklessly, he would break their legs. "Why, are you afraid?" Wang Chong said, I'm not afraid." As expected, the Wang family's little sister fell for it. Wang Chong chuckled. Bringing his little sister, this free bodyguard, he turned around and headed towards the area where the Hu of the western regions resided. Chapter 16. Vermilion Bird Street was bustling with people. Sitting in the carriage, Wang Chong parted the curtains and looked around. There were many blue-eyed, red-bearded Hu shuttling through the streets. With a single glance, Wang Chong could make out the fearsome Turks, the small but aggressive Tibetans, the Silla and Gogurians, who looked similar to the Han but exuded a completely different disposition. There were also the tall and muscular Western regioners, Abbasid Caliphate, Karak Spazanu, and others with red, brown, and golden hair. Seeing these Hu from various regions, Wang Chong felt an indescribable feeling. Regardless of which parallel world he was in, the Tang dynasty would always be the most confident Tang dynasty. It would always welcome the entire world with its most open attitude. Even when it was fighting with the Hu, the Tang dynasty didn't completely ostracize the Hu. In this space-time continuum, it was without a doubt the center of the world. But it was a pity. Wang Chong felt a twinge in his heart, but he quickly regained his senses. Vermilion Bird Street was the place where the Hu gathered the most. If he wanted to find the two Sindhi monks from the western regions, this was the best place. However, Wang Chong wasn't here to try his luck. Luck was the most unreliable thing. The person Wang Chong was looking for was someone else. In the entire Vermilion Bird Street, including the entire eastern region of the capital, there was no one who had a better understanding of the Hu than that person. In his previous life, due to his arrogance, the Tang dynasty missed out on the precious Wuxia steel. As a result, there was barely any Wuxia steel left in the Tang dynasty. Initially, this could have greatly strengthened the Tang dynasty. Wang Chong was here to correct this mistake. Learn from the barbarians in order to subdue the barbarians. This was the saying of a person named Wei Yuan in the world he came from. Humans were divided into barbarians, but technology wasn't. This was even more so for Wuxia steel. As long as he could change the tragedy of his previous life, Wang Chong didn't care where he came from. Go! The carriage made a turn, carrying Wang Chong and his sister into an inconspicuous alley. Oh, isn't this young Master Chong? As soon as Wang Chong walked in with his little sister, a smiling fat face immediately looked up from behind the counter. The chubby man grinned at Wang Chong, revealing a golden incisor that was very eye-catching. This was a pawnshop. Although it looked deserted and the fat man was the only one inside, it was a pawnshop. However, Wang Chong knew that the guy in front of him was filthy rich. If you don't open for business for 3 years, once you do, you'll eat for 3 years. He specialized in the pawning business of the Hu in the capital and the hedonistic science. If anyone was short of silver or soft goods, they would come here to pawn them. This was especially so for the Hu. As guests in a foreign land, they would always be strapped for cash, and it was inevitable that they would come here to pawn their goods. Due to this reason, the chubby man was extremely well informed about the Hu in the capital, and he was given the nickname of Big Golden Tooth. Wang Chong had been idling around in the capital, befriending shady characters like Ma Zhou. However, it wasn't completely without benefits. Big Golden Tooth was one of the useful friends that Wang Chong befriended. Even though he felt the pinch, Wang Chong gritted his teeth. He placed an ingot of silver on the table. Big Golden Tooth never did things for free. In order for him to speak, he had to cut some flesh every time. I'm here to buy some news. A few Buddhist monks from Sindhu have arrived in the capital. They are bald and wearing a large kasaya. They are easy to recognize. I want to know where they are. Wang Chong said. Young Master Chong is indeed forthright, as expected of the descendant of Duke Jiu. Sindhi monks? Why is young Master Chong looking for them? These fellows speak strangely, and they often persuade others to believe in their religion. Young Master Chong should avoid greeting them. Furthermore, even if young Master Chong is looking for them, it is already too late. These fellows have already returned to Sindhu a few days ago. Big Golden Tooth smiled happily. As he caressed the silver ingot, he lowered his head and spoke to Wang Chong. What? Upon hearing those words, Wang Chong's heart skipped a beat and he widened his eyes. They've returned? Even though Wang Chong had expected that the two monks would have arrived at the Tang dynasty, he didn't expect that the two Buddhist monks would have already returned. Indeed, they took the carriage of the Zhaowu from the white agate jewelry shop to the west of the city. If young Master Chong has any business with them, you can head west along the main road. You might be able to catch up to them. Big Golden Tooth said. Wang Chong shook his head. After leaving the capital, heading west would be the vast mountains and deserts. A journey of 3 days was more than sufficient for them to walk out of the Jade Gate Pass. The world was so vast, where could he find a carriage that could carry 2 Buddhist monks? Big Golden Tooth's words were just to console him. Thank you. Walking out of the pawn shop, Wang Chong felt an indescribable sense of disappointment. In the end, this Wuzi steel was still fated to be with him. Let's go. Let's return home. The two siblings boarded the carriage and left the pawn shop. By the time they returned to the Wang family residence, the sky had already turned completely dark. The entire residence was brightly lit, but it only made it more silent. Hold it right there. When Wang Chong and his sister tiptoed through the door and were about to return to their respective rooms, a cold bellow suddenly sounded from above. Crack! The two siblings' bodies froze and they slowly turned their heads around. At the top of the hall, 2 lanterns were lit, and from the light, a cold face slowly appeared. It was staring coldly at the 2 siblings. Mother! Wang Xiaoyao's body shuddered. She turned her head around timidly and called out. Mother! Wang Chong's face was filled with uneasiness as well. After circling outside, he purposely went to Big Gold Toothed's place to avoid his mother. Yet he still ended up being caught by his mother. Looking at his mother's frosty expression, it was hard to tell how long she had waited for him. Clearly, the matter at the vast crane pavilion had been exposed. You 2 bastards, let me ask you, where did you go today? Madame Wang's cold expression was daunting. The 2 siblings felt their scalps going numb. In the Wang family, even though Father Wang was strict, he spent most of his time outside and didn't have the time to discipline them. The one who was truly in charge of the 2 siblings was their mother, Zhao Shuhua. Other families had a loving mother and strict father, but the Wang family had a strict mother and loving father. Compared to their mother, their father was much more loving. We went to the vast crane pavilion. Wang Chong's heart trembled. Knowing that he couldn't hide it from his mother, he could only brace himself and reveal the truth. Went to the vast crane pavilion? You only went to the vast crane pavilion? Madame Wang slammed the sandalwood table fiercely. Wang Chong's knees caved in. He didn't argue any further and knelt down. I'm sorry, mother. I was wrong on this matter. Wang Chong knew what his mother was angry about. Regardless of whether it was in this life or his previous life, What Wang Chong couldn't bear to see was his mother's disappointment. Even though she looked strict on the surface, after his previous life, Wang Chong knew that she was as weak as anyone else in her heart. She loved this family deeply as well. Because she had lost something, she cherished it. In his previous life, when his mother's frail body slowly collapsed before him, Wang Chong felt a sharp pain in his heart. As such, when Wang Chong was reincarnated in this life, he swore to himself that no matter what reason he had, he would never anger his mother and make her grieve and cry for him. Wrong? Are you only wrong? Madame Wang trembled in anger. It's one thing for you to mess around, but to bring your little sister to the vast crane pavilion as well. Do you know that the Yao clan's old master Yao has already reported our family to His Majesty and your grandfather? This matter has already caused a huge uproar in the capital. After the morning court session ended, your big uncle didn't even return home. Instead, he paid us a visit in anger and questioned us on what we were up to and whether we were intending to cause the death of the entire Wang clan. What? Wang Chong's body trembled. He lifted his head abruptly in shock. In his previous life, he wasn't involved in this matter at all. Thus, he didn't expect that the Yao clan's old master Yao would report him and his little sister to His Majesty. In fact, even his big uncle had come to question them. How could this be? Wang Chong muttered to himself as waves of shock surged in his heart. He thought that Yao Guangyi wanted to frame his father and drive a wedge between his father and the king of Song. Logically speaking, he wouldn't blow this matter up, at least not to the point where the current emperor would know about it. However, Wang Chong realized that he had underestimated a person, and that person was the Yao clan's old master Yao. If Yao Guangyi was said to be a sly old fox, then this old fox was groomed by the Yao clan's old master Yao. Compared to old master Yao, his ability to turn clouds and rain with one turn in the imperial court was not even 1/10 of old master Yao's. Wang Chong remembered clearly that in his previous life, old master Yao had a nephew who bribed an official in the royal court. In the end, this official with the surname Wei went to the Holy Emperor and reported his nephew. Originally, in the royal court, if such a thing happened to an official, his political career would basically come to an end. However, in the end, old master Yao's methods were heaven-defying. In the end, not only did nothing happen to him, the official who reported him was even demoted. As for that nephew, he was naturally acquitted and the matter was left unsettled. This matter left a deep impression on Wang Chong. Be it in his previous life or this life, he had heard his father, eldest brother and second brother mention it many times. Thus, even though he had never met this old master Yao before, Wang Chong had a huge taboo towards this old master Yao. The way he did things was unfathomable and couldn't be judged based on common sense. Wang Chong knew that in this matter, he had only paid attention to Yao Guangyi and neglected the hidden old master Yao of the Yao family. Old master Yao and his grandfather had never been on good terms. The two of them were political rivals, and this relationship had been going on since the previous dynasty. Furthermore, Yao Feng was doted on by old master Yao. In his previous life, old master Yao even went to the Holy Emperor to seek an official position for his grandson. It wasn't surprising that he would do such a thing. Thinking about it, it wasn't surprising that old master Yao would bring this matter to the Holy Emperor in order to deal a blow to his grandfather. What surprised Wang Chong the most was Big Uncle. Big Uncle and his father didn't have a good relationship. Different from his father, Big Uncle wasn't a military general. Instead, he held an official position in the royal court. His status was high and his authority was immense. His grandfather's old friends and disciples, as well as his influence in the royal court, were all inherited by Big Uncle. Thus, he looked down on his father, Wang Yan, as well as his siblings, who were of a lower status than him. Wang Chong's other uncles and aunts were meek and submissive. However, Wang Chong's father, Wang Yan, was a soldier and had an upright character. Thus, there were many times when he would go against his father and get into conflict with him. Thus, the relationship between Big Uncle and his father was the worst. Wang Chong had never liked him in his previous life. He just didn't expect that because of the matter between him and his little sister, Wang Chong would pay a visit personally. You still don't know? Madame Wang's hearing was much sharper than Wang Chong imagined. Hearing his muttering, she was even more furious. It's not like you don't know about the relationship between your uncle and your father. He has never liked your father. Your grandfather's 70th birthday is coming up soon. Do you want your father to lose his reputation and face in front of so many uncles, and your grandfather's students and old friends? At the end, Madame Wang felt bitter and her eyes reddened. Tears were about to fall from her eyes. Yesterday, she thought that her child had finally grown up. She didn't expect him to barge into the vast crane pavilion today and beat up the Yao clan Gongzi along with his little sister. This matter involved both the Yao and Wang clan, and this wasn't a small matter. Furthermore, the old master behind the Yao clan had even reported his father-in-law to the Holy Emperor. Chapter 17. The greater Madame Wang's expectations for Wang Chong, the greater the disappointment she felt at this moment. This wasn't just directed at Wang Chong, it was also directed at herself. If she hadn't been overly lenient toward Wang Chong, things wouldn't have developed to such an extent. Mother, I'm sorry. I know my mistake. Wang Chong knelt on the floor and lowered his head, blaming himself. Even though he did this for his father and the Wang clan, and Wang Chong didn't think that he was wrong, his mother was completely unaware of this matter. Wang Chong had no way to explain everything to her. Everything would have to wait for half a month later. Only when his father discovered Yao Guangyi's scheme would his mother understand his painstaking efforts. Mother, little brother isn't in the wrong on this matter. Suddenly, a stubborn voice sounded from the side. It was as clear as a silver bell. Hearing her little brother constantly admitting his mistakes despite being wronged, Wang Xiaoyao couldn't take it anymore and stood up. Even though she was afraid of her mother, Wang Xiaoyao couldn't bear to see her little brother being wronged. This matter isn't little brother's fault. Why do you have to say that little brother is in the wrong? Wang Xiaoyao stared at her mother stubbornly and said indignantly, "What did you say?" Madame Wang was taken aback. She widened her eyes and trembled in anger. "You still dare to talk back? Little sister, stop it." Wang Chong was also taken aback. He hurriedly pulled his little sister's hand. But this time, his little sister actually shook him off. Why can't I say it? Wang family's little sister's stubborn temper flared up. This time, she didn't listen to Wang Chong at all. That Yao Feng instigated Ma Zhou to frame little brother for kidnapping a lady, so little brother and I went to teach him a lesson. Is this also wrong? What? You said that Yao clan's Yao Feng instigated Ma Zhou to harm your brother? Madame Wang was truly shocked this time. She looked at the kneeling Wang Chong and the stubborn Wang Xiaoyao. Clearly, she wasn't aware of this matter. Of course, I saw it with my own eyes. That fellow Ma Zhou has already admitted it. Wang Xiaoyao said confidently. The thoughts of a 10-year-old girl were innocent. Until now, she still thought that the reason why Wang Chong brought her to the vast crane pavilion to teach Yao Feng a lesson was to exact vengeance. Repaying kindness with kindness and enmity with enmity. In this matter, he completely supported his little brother. Madame Wang was originally furious, but at this moment, her anger suddenly subsided. She looked at the two siblings in a daze, unable to say a word. Initially, Madame Wang didn't believe that Wang Chong would kidnap a lady. Her son might be stubborn, disobedient, or loafing around, but Madame Wang believed that no matter how bad he was, it was impossible for him to be so bad that he would do such a thing. The reason why he was teaching him a lesson was because regardless of whether Wang Chong had done it or not, his reputation as a rapist had already spread, and even the Wang family's reputation had been affected. The people outside wouldn't care about the truth. They would only know that this matter was done by Wang Chong, and the Wang family was the descendant of the Wang family. Really? Madame Wang asked. However, she wasn't looking at Wang Xiaoyao, but at the kneeling Wang Chong. Wang Chong hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. Even though he didn't come to the vast crane pavilion for vengeance, his little sister's words weren't wrong. Sigh. Madame Wang sighed deeply. Suddenly, she was at a loss for words. Wang Chong and his sister had caused such a huge trouble, implicating the Yao and Wang family, and even reaching the ears of the emperor. Logically speaking, they should be taught a lesson. However, Yao Feng made use of Ma Zhou to plot against Wang Chong, causing Wang Chong's reputation in the capital to fall to the ground. Infuriated, Wang Chong brought his little sister to the vast crane pavilion to teach him a lesson. This was understandable. Even though Madame Wang didn't like Wang Chong and his sister causing trouble everywhere, her husband was, after all, a general who guarded the borders. Madame Wang didn't wish for her child to be a coward who was afraid of everything. From this aspect, Madame Wang didn't think that there was anything wrong with the actions of Wang Chong and his sister. Stand up. Madame Wang sighed. I will explain this matter to your big uncle personally. As long as this matter isn't your fault, even if the emperor were to ask about it, we will be able to answer to him. Thank you, mother. Wang Chong stood up and heaved a long sigh of relief. Turning to look at his little sister, Wang Chong couldn't help but feel grateful. At this moment, Wang Chong couldn't help but feel glad that he brought his little sister along for this operation. Otherwise, this matter would be difficult to resolve. Not bad, right? Seeing that her brother was looking at her, the Wang family's little sister lifted her proud little face without any humility. Wang Chong grinned and secretly gave her a thumbs up to satisfy his little sister's arrogance. She was his little sister after all, he didn't dote on her for nothing. However, even though this matter is Yao Feng's fault, the two of you are too much. At this moment, the voice of their mother, Zhao Shuhua, echoed in their ears. Hearing their mother's voice, the faces of the siblings immediately collapsed. Especially you. As a girl, how can you fight with others like a boy? How unsightly is that? Madame Wang's gaze turned to look at Wang Xiaoyao, who had talked back to her and reprimanded her once more. Yes, Yao knows her mistake. The Wang family's little sister's face darkened. With a "I knew it would turn out like this" expression, she lowered her head and kicked the ground out of boredom. Her mother's words went in one ear and out the other. If such a thing happens again, tell your brother that you won't go. If he dares to say anything else, tell me and I will break his legs. Madame Wang didn't let go of this opportunity to discipline her and continued to nag. The Wang family's little sister's round eyes started to wander around. Clearly, she was distracted and wanted to slip away. Upon seeing this scene, Wang Chong chuckled in his heart. He already knew what she was up to. Mother, I'm hungry. Why don't we go and eat first? The Wang family's little sister suddenly pressed her stomach with a pitiful and aggrieved look. As she spoke, a rumbling sound came from her stomach. Madame Wang's heart softened, but her face soon turned stern. We can talk about eating later. In the future, you're not allowed to fight with others. Look, who's that? The Wang family's little sister suddenly lifted her head and widened her eyes in astonishment. Making use of the moment when her mother turned her head back in astonishment, Wang Xiaoyao pulled her brother and ran. Brother, run. Wang Chong chuckled. Flinging his arm away, as though he had practiced this countless times, he ran with his little sister. Behind them, Madame Wang's furious voice sounded, Wang Xiaoyao. If you dare to run, I will lock you up for 3 days. For the time being, Wang Chong managed to escape the calamity of the vast crane pavilion. Early in the morning, he received news of the two Sindhi Buddhist Wang Chong. As expected, Wang Xiaoyao was locked up for 3 days. By the time Wang Chong went to look for her, she was already nowhere to be seen. Even though Father Wang said that he would return at night to deal with them, there was no news of him until late at night. Most likely, his father should have been transferred back to the borders by now. Everything was the same as in his previous life. Wang Chong lay on the bed with his hands crossed behind his head. However, he couldn't fall asleep no matter how hard he tried. The events of the day surfaced in his mind once more. The two Sindhi Buddhist Wang Chong had returned so early. This was something that Wang Chong didn't expect. That shouldn't be the case. Could it be that the Tang dynasty and Wuxia Steel are fated to be together? Lying on the bed, Wang Chong felt deeply indignant. Given his current situation, Wuxia Steel was the best opportunity for him to accumulate a huge amount of wealth. Even though it wasn't to say that Wang Chong couldn't think of other ways to make money, all the other money-making opportunities paled in comparison. But all other money-making opportunities paled in comparison. Otherwise, Wang Chong wouldn't have subconsciously thought of wood steel. Not only so, Wuxia steel had another special meaning. In his previous life, the Tang dynasty missed this opportunity, and in the end, Wuxia steel was used by their enemies. In the end, thousands of Tang dynasty elites fell under the blades of Wuxia steel, and their blood flowed like a river. This was a huge blow to the Tang dynasty. This left a deep impression on Wang Chong. That was why he was so bothered by it and wanted to change everything. In this life, Wuxia steel had just appeared and wasn't well known. This was an excellent opportunity to make use of it. Wang Chong originally thought that he could make good use of this opportunity to accumulate a fortune for himself and benefit the Central Plains. However, he still failed. What is going on? Could it be that because of my rebirth, the Tang dynasty couldn't even get a tiny bit of Wuxia steel in the end? Wang Chong laid on the bed, feeling that something was amiss. It seemed that he had neglected something important. Wang Chong didn't think that there was anything wrong with making use of other people's strengths. In his mind, Wang Chong carefully recalled the incident regarding Wuxia steel in his previous life. In his previous life, Wang Chong clearly remembered that there was a clan that came into contact with the two Sindhi Buddhist monks and purchased some Wuxia steel from them at a high price. If the two Sindhi monks were to return now, wouldn't that mean that the clan wouldn't be able to purchase the Wuxia steel, and all of this wouldn't have happened? Wang Chong's mind was in turmoil, and he couldn't make sense of it. Something isn't right. After an unknown period of time, Wang Chong suddenly thought of something. Alarmed, he leaped up from the bed. Those two Sindhi Buddhist monks only know Sanskrit, and they don't know the language of the Central Plains. How could a person who doesn't know the slightest bit of Sanskrit talk to them, and even say that they are weird? Wang Chong finally understood what was amiss. Sindha was located to the west of the western regions, far away from the Central Plains. The monks there rarely came to the Central Plains. Even if they did, the majority of the Sindhi monks who came here knew the language of the Central Plains, and they had no problem communicating with them. However, these two Sindhi monks were different. They only knew Sanskrit and nothing else. Even the Hu beyond the Great Wall and the Hu of the western regions couldn't understand their language. It was precisely because of this that no one knew what they were up to, and even more so, no one knew that they were selling Wuxia steel. Thus, when the matter of Wuxia steel was exposed, it caused such a huge uproar. Someone once said that if only those who knew Sanskrit in the Tang dynasty weren't so rare, if only someone could ask those Sindhi monks, if only the Wuxia steel from Hyderabad could be used by the Tang dynasty, then the strength of the Tang dynasty would be completely different, and it would become even more powerful. Big Golden Tooth said that they spoke in a weird manner, and if he had never met them, he wouldn't have said that. That's not right. The people Big Golden Tooth saw were Tocharian monks, not Sindhi monks. Wang Chong contemplated for a moment, and suddenly, he recalled a story from his previous life and came to a realization. The Tocharians and Sindhi were neighbors, and they also believed in Buddhism. Furthermore, they built a huge reclining Buddha statue, which was extremely spectacular. Furthermore, there would often be many Tocharian monks coming to the Central Plains to spread their teachings. As the Tang dynasty didn't have much understanding of the countries in the far west, in this era, people would often confuse the Tocharian monks with the Sindhi monks, and even think that the Tocharians were Sindhi, and the Sindhi were Tocharians. When Big Golden Tooth said that these people spoke in a weird manner, he was clearly talking about the Tocharians. Thinking of this, Wang Chong was overjoyed, and the knot in his heart was instantly swept away. If the people Big Golden Tooth saw weren't Sindhi monks, that meant that the two Sindhi monks were still in the Tang dynasty, and they were still here. In other words, he still had a chance. In that instant, Wang Chong felt that every cell in his body was relaxing, and his heart was filled with joy. Even though Big Golden Tooth gave Wang Chong the wrong information, Wang Chong didn't come out empty-handed. White Agate Jewelry Shop. Wang Chong recalled the place that Big Golden Tooth mentioned. The Tocharians were far from the Central Plains, and when the monks there headed to the Tang dynasty, they would ride on the carriages of the Xiaowu people of the western region. In his previous life, Wang Chong knew that these people and horses were fixed. Only certain Xiaowu people would ride on these monks. Sindhi and the Tocharians were neighbors, so there was only one way to get to the Tang dynasty. If he could find out the whereabouts of the Tokarians at the white agate jewelry shop, he would definitely be able to find out the whereabouts of the two Sindhi monks. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.